YouTube? Welcome back to the BladesIIB shop and another project video. We're back in the garage today as we're going to do a little bit more work on my son's car. We've got to go through and change all the motor mounts on this Saab 9.3 to get it back on the road and ready to go. When he's driving it right now, under acceleration, it has a definite vibration coming right into the floorboards, kind of like a thumping on the floor. And we've narrowed it down to, we believe it is the motor mounts. So we'll take a look at those here in a minute. Hey, if you're new to the channel, normally the videos on here are machining, welding, knife making, a lot more metal work involved. Today, the job around the house is get this car fixed and on the road. So today we're going to be pulling some wrenches. If you're new, encourage you to get on here, check out some of the other videos on the channel. If you like what you see, would love it if you hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, drop a like, drop a comment in here. Let other people know it's worth checking out. For those of you who are already subscribed to the channel, hey, I appreciate you coming back and watching these videos. I know we're not going to have any machining in this one today, but I hope you will still enjoy it. Let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and just jump right into this project, get these motor mounts on here. Let's go. So today we're going to get in here and change this top motor mount. You can see in here where this one completely broken, not just the rubber wore out, but the actual motor mount is completely broken in there. And we did a little bit of looking, and this motor mount has 3 holes up on top. There's not actually a bolt. Try to get a better angle in there with the light. There we go. I think you can see that middle hole. So there's not actually a bolt in there in the middle hole. So it appears that this has been replaced once maybe, and it's the wrong motor mount. So the one that we're going to put back in there is solid across. That's the part number that seemed to match up better for this year vehicle. And since we're not using that middle hole, I think it's going to be the better fit. So ignore that part number that's on the top of this one. We're going to go with a slightly different one. And I'm hoping this is going to be a pretty straightforward swap out. I mean, we just have 5 bolts to pull out, 2 where it mounts on the motor there, 3 bolts where it mounts onto the car, and I've got a jack just gently holding up underneath to take a little bit of pressure off the motor so that it doesn't want to release and fall down when we loosen this off. We'll modify that jack under there as needed, but I'm hoping this should be a pretty quick change out. We'll see how it goes. All right, so we just got a couple of 18mm bolts for those back 2, and 3 16mm is what we've got here on the front. Just going to use a breaker bar and a ratchet to get those broke free and get those pulled off of there. Get this breaker bar to crack these loose. Oh wow, they were okay. Well, that wasn't very tight at all. Okay, same thing, that wasn't very tight at all. So let's just go ahead and crack these 16mm ones loose. We'll get the ratchet on there. All right, go ahead and get these 2 big ones off the motor next so that we're free from that, and then we'll make sure that the motor doesn't, the larger ones, reach down for your bigger socket. And then just be careful getting in and around this hose, and don't hook it on this piece of plastic. Get on this one. All right, trying to go as straight a line as you can, but just without doing damage to anything. And there's our first broken piece of motor mount coming out of there. And somebody added some extra washers in there too. We may not need those when we get the right mount. Should pull forward enough. Go right in there, top and behind. Tell you what I think. That one, let's see if we can't get a straight shot without the swivel on there. And you got one less thing you're
fighting with,
hooking on things with. I feel like it's binding on you still.
Okay, now it's easy. Easier.
Okay, that's what I was, yeah, it was binding. Okay, let's get these other ones out. We'll make sure we put those in first, going back together. To get ourselves all lined up, and then alright, so what is it? Good, it just comes right out of there. There's the old one with had the 3 holes, one in the middle. Here's our new one. Now we're just going to have 2 holes going across there. So just slightly different on these 2 mounts. It's not like it's a gasket we're trying to seal. We just want to make sure it sits down there relatively flat. So, well, it should be good. these have such large holes in them, but we don't have bushings or anything to put in there. So. Definitely that engine is down a long ways. Okay, so we are going to have to figure out we are going to have to move this engine around some before we can get this lined up enough to grab onto these bolts and be able to pull it all together. So because of it being broken, our engine is down like 1.5 inches too far.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess that's why I didn't go down any further onto the jack, because it's already sitting all the way down.
Yep.
All right, see what you got to keep an eye on there? We got to close that gap.
Yep.
So let's see if I'm in a good spot on the engine here and we can jack it up a little bit, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
Is it moving or just the whole car moving?
It didn't move really. The gap's about the same. Okay, the engine's moving up. The gap's getting a bit smaller. Okay, we're getting pretty close now. About like 3/4 of an inch left. Yeah.
Okay, keep a close eye.
Alright, they're almost touching.
Close, as long as we can get some bolts in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get that one started, and then make sure they're at least started in their holes so that we don't pull something else out of alignment. Actually,
tell if I'm cross-threading it.
Okay. Remember which ones were long or short here? I'm guessing those two are long. The one up top was short, right? Okay, well, we shouldn't be cross-threading if I can do it by hand, so... Well, I'd say we got pretty good alignment. We're getting everything pretty much turned in here by hand.
Yep.
Go ahead and, since we're in there cinched up so much, tighten these 3 down. All right, so we jacked up on it a little bit, and we've got that bolted together and pretty much closed up the last 3/8 of an inch or so gap just by tightening those by hand. So we know nothing's cross-threaded. We've got everything good alignment in there. Let's go ahead and lock these 5 down, and I think we'll pull the jack out and see what we got.
I should do these first and then those ones?
Yeah. So actually do these 2, kind of snug those 2 down there up. Make sure seems to be pretty lined up where it wants to be. Snug those 2 and then snug this back one, and then we'll snug the 2 on the motor. And we're just going snug right now, not tight. And then you can get the other one that tight.
Okay.
Get the space out of that one. Snugged up.
All
right, get that back one where it's straight first, and then we'll put the swivel on for the front.
All right,
now let me pull the jack out of there. Well, I think that's going to make a pretty notable difference, Jake.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the engine looks pretty happy.
All right, so now let's go tight. All right, let's give these a good snug. Okay, well, I should have tried to get a little bit of video of this to start with, but here's where I had that jack sitting, was just underneath this corner of the pan. There's another torque mount back there, so that seems to be a pretty strong portion. But the engine was almost sitting on top of these cross straps right here, this kind of skid triangle. So now that we've got that in place with the right mount, it's almost like 2 inches up off of here, and it was pretty much sitting right down on those before. So clearly this motor was not in the right place, and I think that's definitely what was causing our vibration that we were feeling up through the floor of the vehicle when we were trying to put it under power at all. So I think this is going to make a significant difference for us. Well, I think that's it. Let's get our airbox back in here and we'll go give this thing a test drive.
All right.
That's last. This one down here is the one you got to figure out how to line it.
All right.
So we're good to go there?
Yep.
All right, so we're about a total of 25 minutes in here. We got that one out. We got the new one back in place. We got our air box set back in there. So we didn't do a video of the motor running beforehand, but when it was just running, you would put it in drive, put a little bit of pressure to it with the brakes on, and this motor would definitely move in here almost a full 2 inches. It was moving around. So we'll start it up really quick. We'll see if the motor's moving around, get a sense of that, and then we'll go for a test drive. And hopefully we got rid of our thump on the floorboard, as we should be back in place properly again. Okay, well, we got it started up. So you're gonna put it in, put your brake on. Yep, put it in drive. That's good. All right, go ahead one more time. Put it in drive, or just give it a little gas again. Okay. Shut it off. Well, we still have some definite movement, so there is another motor mount over there. So maybe that one was taking some extra stress as this one broke. I don't know. Go ahead, start it up one more time, Jake. Let me look in a different spot here. All right, put it in gear. Little gas. Okay. Well, so far we seem to be smooth. It didn't take much. All we had to do was go up this little hill right here and we'd already feel it. Got it floored?
No.
Yeah, give it some. Okay, anything?
Mm-mm. Nothing. Seems pretty solid.
Okay. Get a little gas here.
Good.
All right. Well, I would say we got success then. I'm not hearing any noise over here. You're not getting any noise over there.
Nope.
That took care of it. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this to show up on video here. So we gotta look at this other motor mount. There we go, yes, it's focused on there nicely. There. It is zero rubber down inside that other motor mount, this other one underneath here. So I can see all the way through there, not connected on rubber at all for almost the half of that mount that I can see. So although we did fix our problem, it's running and it's not vibrating anymore. On the floor, we're gonna wait until we get this other mount in so that we can fix this other side as well to make sure that we don't just put extra stress on that mount and break it again. So clearly both of these mounts were totally shot. I wish I'd have thought of the mirror thing before and had a better look at this one when we ordered it, but that's all right. We'll get another one ordered and then we'll get that one bolted in place because yeah, that mount it's gone. Hopefully you can get some good video and you can see that in there before we pull it out. We'll definitely see it when we get it out of there though. All right, while we're doing these motor mounts, we're gonna go ahead and change these two torque mounts under here too. You see back in here, they're pretty cracked out. It's a little tough to see on camera under here. And then we've got this other torque mount back here. So they're not in near as bad a shape as the ones up on top, but definitely some cracks in a few places. So we're gonna go ahead and swap those out as well. There's what the new ones look like. So just a couple bolts to pull out. This one's gonna be a little tough getting past the exhaust. This other one I think shouldn't be too bad. So we're gonna do this one first, see how that comes undone and how it comes out of there. And then we'll see if we can get the bolt out of that one past the exhaust. Hopefully we don't have to drop that. See how it goes. All right, so getting this first one out, we got the back bolt out, no problem. It's just a cross bolt. Didn't have any pressure on it. We're able to slide that in and out. Taking out these two front ones. And it looks like this piece should just drop out and we'll drop the new one back in. So didn't have to hold any pressure off the engine, didn't jack anything up. It's fairly free in there. We can get to all three bolts, get them out. The next one, we're gonna have a little bit of trouble getting the bolt past the exhaust. We'll see how that turns out here in a minute. But for this one, I think we're in good shape. Drop it, hold it up. Okay, so there's that. Pull that bolt out of the back end of it. Just again, wiggle it around to get the pressure off. Okay. And there's it. All right, let's get this. I'll hand you the new one and we'll pop the new one back in place. Okay, so we got the new one, we got the old one out. It's got this little fin tab on it, so we're gonna have that pointing down. Get that up in there, get that back bolt slid through and in place. All right, get it started in its threads by hand a little bit. Okay, so the good news is getting these bolts out pretty easy. Actually, this one I broke it with a ratchet, and then it's easy to get a wrench on there. This one, because of that exhaust, it's pretty tough to get a ratchet on it, but got a wrench on it, no problem. But you can see where it's coming out there. It's gonna run right into our exhaust. So I'm hoping once I get this front one out, maybe we'll just get enough swivel and enough movement that'll be able to just angle it up around that corner, but it's gonna be tight. But once again, there's no pressure on these when the engine's not running, so don't have to jack or support the engine or anything. They're both finger loose to come out of there. So really this exhaust is gonna be our only headache. We'll see if we can get past it. Okay, so trying to get this one past the exhaust up here. I really hate having to undo exhaust if I don't have to. So we went back over to this one and pulled the bolts out of there. And when you pull the bolts out of there, you have a lot of movement to be able to get this engine to move. So as nice as these settle in place, when you're bolting them in, you don't have to jack the engine or anything to support it. But if you take those out, you've got a ton of flex and a ton of movement. So able to pull this out of the way enough that we should be able to get that bolt past and not have to loosen the exhaust. So we use both hands and do that, but yes, just loosening off that other one we put in, that's the secret. So have that one loose and off before you try to change out this other side. And there we go, we got both of them back in there. Shiny new, good looking rubber all around. Get that one back in there. Doesn't really feel like they do much. They come out just loose, but man, when they are not connected, that motor just free to move all over the place. And now that those are on there, I mean, you really can't get it to move around at all. Now back up and we'll go check out that last top one. We'll start digging underneath that battery box and get that one out of there. All right, so these aren't terrible. Definitely not near as bad as that top one. But you get down in there and you can see rubber starting to crack around there. So I figured since we're doing those other top ones and it's so bad there, that's a little better shot. See that one starting to break, crack all in through there. So cracking up a little bit on that side. And then this one, yeah, this one, same thing. So they're starting to go. They weren't near as bad as the top ones, but they're definitely pulling away and separating there in a few places. Pulling away there on the backside. So they weren't terrible. They weren't totally disintegrated, but worth changing. All right, now to get to that last mount, we've got to get all of this off out of our way here and get underneath to where that mount is. I'm not really sure what we've got underneath this battery box. We'll just kind of start working our way down and see what it takes to get down there. I know this piece on top here is loose.
The hose on top of it.
All right, so this piece comes off easy. We'll get our battery disconnected, get that pulled out of there, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, now this, we cannot set on concrete.
Okay.
Never set a battery down on concrete. All right, so we got 3 big Torx bolts down here that we're gonna pull out. Here, I don't know why I'm doing all this. Go. Pulled that battery out. Got 3 big Torx bolts we're gonna pull out of the bottom of that, and we'll see if we can just lift that whole battery box out of there after that. Might not even have to pull that fuse box out, I don't know. Let's see what we get to after this. Work our way down until we get to that motor mount. Let's see what all we're unhooking, unplugging, what all wants to move with this. That, yeah. Box on the front, I don't know if it's got a cord on it. This whole thing here, just the unit itself slides out of there. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a better bet. Okay, this whole fuse box came off of the front here. So this was on a clip that slid down. Okay, I think you're going to kind of have to go up and out that way a little bit. We're there.
All right.
I'm going to put this back on just to keep it clean. I'm also going to just put this back in there so that we don't leave a plug exposed for a whole week. All right, you already got that one back together?
Yep.
All right, so it really wasn't too bad. We just had to pull that battery box out. Fuse box came off of the front. This other control box came off of the side. Torque screws in the bottom of it, and that pulled out of there. And then we seem to have pretty much full access now to this motor mount. I'm gonna try to get in there and get a better shot of what this thing looks like. Yeah, it's just really hard to see what we have going on in there. Anyway, we looked with the mirror to try to see what we were dealing with. All right, well, now that we've got this out of here, so it appears this motor mount mostly just has rubber down around the bottom of it. And it does still have rubber in place there on both sides. It's a little cracked. So maybe it's not as disintegrated as we thought. It just appears that this top side, there just really is no connection up there. So until we get it completely out of there, I guess we won't know how bad it is, but able to move and shake the motor pretty easy. Go ahead and grab it and just give that motor a shake, Jake. There we go. Yeah, so we're getting, maybe you can't see that on camera, but we're getting pretty good movement out of that even just by hand. So we'll go ahead and swap that one out and get these all changed out and done. All right, so our new motor mount came in. It looks like it's the same as the other one. It's kind of weird. We've got this battery cable that goes there, and we've got this hole, but it's not actually a threaded hole. So I guess that's why it's epoxied and glued on there, since it's not actually threaded in. So that's kind of weird. We'll figure that one out when it comes apart. And this is, you know, it definitely has pretty good flex to it, movement. So, but maybe not so much twisting motion. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get this one in there and we'll see how that other one feels when we pull it out of there. We'll see how worn out it really is. So we'll get some sockets and we'll start getting that undone. All right, so we had our jack in a good place. You know, we'd loosened those bolts and the motor was dropping down a little bit. So we jacked it up, got a little more pressure on it. And now we've got just, you know, about a 3/8 of an inch gap under there, but we know we have good control to lift the motor up and down. We'll get this bottom piece loosened and then we'll figure out what all we have to adjust, get these other 4 bolts out, and we'll figure out what we have to do to get that out of there. Keep going, Jake. All right. Well, I think we'll definitely save this one. I don't think it's in that bad a shape, honestly. I mean, it's really not. After all that, it's got some cracking, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it's definitely softer than the other one, but from a twisting standpoint. I don't know if that one's that much worse than our new one. So it's just kind of weird. We looked at it with the mirror. There just is nothing up on the top side. All the rubber and support is down there on that bottom half section. I don't think that's going to really change that motor twisting. So anyway, we'll get the new one in there. We'll be good to go. Live and learn. When you don't understand everything about what you're taking apart, you don't always know these things. So let's see if we can get this one. And it's really weird, 2 out of 3 of them. You could get 2 out of 3 to line up really nice, but not the third. All right, so not quite sure what's going on. We can get 2 holes to more or less line up. It's not great. And then the third hole is off by, almost a full half a hole. If you sort of twist it around, you come back, you can get these back two to, again, more or less line up, and then you're off by half a hole on that front one. So if we were to kind of split the difference between those two and go in there and grind those out. I mean, that's why the holes on that other bracket were ground out huge. So I think for this one, we're just gonna have to go in there and mill a little bit out of this bracket in order to get it to work. We've double checked the part number. The other thing that I'm not really liking is it's got this big step down into that one, and there is no real bump on the bottom of this bracket that's going to fit in there. So it's really only going to be sitting flat in 2 places, and then it's just going to have a big space right there. So I'm not really sure I understand what the concept is. We've double checked the part. There is another one for a manual transmission that looks like it has kind of a foot off of that. So maybe this is supposed to have the other bracket that is supposed to have that. The other thing we can try and do is it does look like that comes out of there with the socket Torx head. So we may just be able to pull that arm out, use the rubber out of this one, and maybe we'll put that other arm on that already has the holes all ground out, and maybe we'll just go that route. Let's see if that'll work for us. All right, so this just unbolts off of there. Just one big long bolt that goes in. So we're just gonna go ahead and use the mount that came off of the car. Not sure if it's the correct part number or not, but it's already all ground out. So we're just gonna bolt this one onto our new mount and go put this thing back together. All right, so we've got our new motor mount. We just pulled off the old part. It's already got big holes ground out in it. So they're gonna fit on there. And then I think we're gonna stack up some washers and try to fill that space a little bit. See if we can't fix that, make it a little bit better than this was when we pulled it apart. All right, so 2 of these big washers seems pretty close to the right thickness. So I think we're just gonna go with that. Actually, because there's a lift on these other 2, we're gonna go ahead and go with 3 washers. I think 3 is gonna get us closer to what we have here. I don't know, we'll kind of play around with that. We'll see what feels better. I don't want to put too much stress on it by having a different spot there, but I do think that filling that gap a little bit is gonna be better for us than leaving it how it was. All right, gotta not forget those 3 washers. Go ahead and jack the motor up a little bit.
Okay.
And as you're jacking, you're going to try to pull towards you just a little. Like roll the jack towards you a little. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Okay, jack. Okay, well, we've got it in there. You can see where we got our washers stacked up underneath that corner, and that allowed us to really get that one nice and tight, pulled down flat. It's pulled flat on the other two. The bracket's in there tight. I'm not really sure why, and we kind of looked online and seemed like some other people have troubles with this motor mount fitting in there properly as well. So I don't know if there was originally supposed to be a spacer underneath that, and it looks like this mount has been changed at least once before, so maybe that got lost. But again, we've got some spacers under there now. I think that's a pretty solid fit. And it's using the same top piece that we pulled out of there. So, hey, we've got a new motor mount and it's better than it was when we pulled it out. Once people start changing parts or swapping things on you, it's hard to figure out exactly what somebody else might have done. But I feel pretty good about how that went together. So we're gonna slap our battery box, our battery back in here. And I would say we are about ready to wrap this up and test run the car. Let's go ahead and get the rest of this. Well, we didn't have to retap that hole by using that bracket again too, so that saved us a step. You gonna do the usual? Alright, well, it puts it in gear and it still moves, but give it a little gas. One more time. Alright, shut it off. Or put it back in park. It puts it in gear and it still moves, but give it a little gas. One more time. Alright, shut it off. Or put it back in park. Well, YouTube, that's a wrap on another video here in the BladesIIB shop as we were able to replace all the motor mounts and torque mounts on this 2004 Saab 9.3. A lot of learning went through. I mean, obviously we had one motor mount completely broken, two more that were, fairly worn, and then a fourth one that we should have stuck with our initial gut guess. So we didn't buy that one. We thought it was good. We looked at a mirror, tried to get tricky, didn't know what we were looking at, and thought it was bad. Turned out that I'm not sure we really made much of an upgrade with the new one we put in there, but the bottom line is we've got peace of mind. We know that it's good. So a lot of learning. It's always fun working on a vehicle that you've never worked on before and trying to understand and figure out what's been going on. And when it's a used vehicle, maybe dealing with some other repairs that were done in the past and things other people have done. But overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. My son's happy to be back on the road. The initial problem we were trying to fix, which was, a noticeable thump, a knocking on the floorboard in the vehicle, we've cured that. We got rid of it. So replacing that broken motor mount definitely took care of the problem that we had. And now we know we've replaced some other parts. And at the end of the day, I think it's better when we're finished than it was when we're started. And sometimes you can't ask for more than that with these projects. So again, son's happy. His car's back on the road. He's got to head back to school here in a couple weeks. And I feel like this will last him another year or so. And if you watched the previous video, we did some work on the convertible top and we got some parts replaced and repaired on that as well. So it's been kind of fun the last couple of weeks getting in here with my son and having a chance to work on this car and get it all repaired. For those of you new to the channel, if you haven't already, I encourage you to check out some of the other videos on here on machining, welding, knife making, car repair, just everything else going on here in the BladesIIB shop. And if you like what you see, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, come back, check out some future videos. For my subscribers, I sure appreciate the support. And until next time, I hope you're out in your own shop working on some projects of your own, doing some car repair of your own. I'll be here in the BladesIIB shop thinking of that next video that we're going to get out. Until then, y'all take care.